who are a little more traditional in their own religion, who are afraid that all this could lead to one world religion. Now, if you are a participant in this world parliament, I think nobody here has the impression that you will get in the next millennium just one religion. I think it's illusionary, and it's not necessary to be afraid of that.
Is it to be desired?
It is. It's good that you are asking the question in this precise way. I don't think it's desired. As a matter of fact, to have a common ethical foundation does not mean that we have to agree on everything, so to speak, in dogmatics in our faith. It's the question of behavior and not the question of beliefs. We could discuss forever and ever what is the relationship of the Torah, you know, for Jews, and of Christ for Christians, and how these go together. Or we have these problems. I am myself very much involved in all sorts of dialogues where we are discussing these problems too. But my personal experience was that even people who disagree on questions of faith, dogma, and so on, they can agree on certain attitudes of behavior. And so my formula is, we do not need one religion. I am not a cocktail theologian myself, who is mixing, you know...
A cocktail.
A cocktail theologian, who is mixing more or less everything together. That is not meant. We do not need one religion, but we need one global ethic. I mean, a certain minimum
of behavior.
Of behavior.
You said once in a book, to put it bluntly, no repressive or regressive religion has a long-term future.
Yes. You know, I am really a man who is always defending religion in public. But of course, you cannot defend everything in religion. And we have in all religions things which are just terrible. And also in the declaration for a world ethic, you have, of course, self-criticism. This declaration is directed also towards the churches, towards the world religions. If the religions themselves are not really humane, then it is really not very helpful for them to preach this truth to the world. Sometimes in religion, people are treated as children. And a lot of people they pray like children, even if they have 50 years, if they are 50 years old. That is regression, not to be mature. Good religion, humane religion, true religion, has to be, to make people mature. Not to be, you know, just crooked, but to stand up, to have a clear way, and in this way also not repressive. Repressive means it's not an open oppression, it's not a persecution, but what you have sometimes in religious communities and in churches where you are not allowed to say the truth. We had very sad cases also in America, even in the Catholic University of America in Washington, my good friend Hans Küng, who has just been eliminated because he has taken a stand in the question of birth control. That is, of course, repression, and we have to abolish that. That is a problem also for Orthodox Jews, that is a problem for Orthodox Muslims, that's a problem for fundamentalist Protestants and their seminaries. You have everywhere, you have the danger of repression.
And you haven't abandoned religion itself. You've criticized it, but you haven't abandoned it.
Well, first, you know, religion, fortunately, is not concentrated on what I would call the human machinery of religion. That is, of course, a humane thing. People who have power in Thailand, in the Buddhist establishment, or who have power in the Vatican, or who have power in a Protestant organization, these are human things. Religion is ultimately directed and sustained by a different reality. There must be something that is my reasonable trust. I cannot prove, but I have reasons for a reasonable trust that what we see, that we touch, that we can calculate, what we can manipulate. That is not all. That there is another dimension here, that there is a deep meaning in our life. We have to discover that we are coming from somewhere and going to somewhere, that even death is not the end of everything. So that is, of course, religion. We call this God in our Jewish, Christian, Muslim tradition. Others call it a different way, but that there is an ultimate reality, that the human being is not alone in this tremendous universe. That is, of course, the heart of religion. And to give up that would be very, very unreasonable, I believe, and ultimately also not very human, not very humane, because if you look at his long history of 50,000, 500,000 years, from the beginning, people believed in something. They made their symbols, they had their images, they had their prayers, they had their customs, giving them things to live for a new life, and so on. Even the pharaohs had nice ships you can still see near the pyramids. They thought, well, they will go to another life. Is this all wrong? Are all these mosques and churches and synagogues built around nothing? I don't think that is the truth. It is, of course, important to know that because this ultimate reality we call God is precisely something absolutely different, you cannot prove this as you can prove in mathematics or in physics that it is. If it would be that, it would not be God. And so it's a challenge, it's an invitation for what I call a reasonable trust. There is an ultimate reality which sustains us, which is ahead of us, and which ultimately will save us.